Alright, you're thinking about starting YouTube. You've got a passion, skill, or message you want to share with the world. You've got this grand vision, but you're stuck at the decision of what camera to buy. Great, let me help you out. I'm John Bear, so happy to see your beautiful face. And today I will tell you the best, cheapest camera to get so you can get started with YouTube today. Roll it! Welcome back! First off, thank you so much for leaving wonderful comments. It always makes my day just reading them. On a recent episode of Film Nation, our camera, gear, and business podcast, we talked about what should be your first camera as a filmmaker. Nigel suggested the Panasonic G7, and I actually think it's a good camera for YouTubers as well. The Panasonic Lumix G7 is a great camera for many reasons. It's really cheap. You can get a used one for about 300 bucks or with a lens at about 500 bucks. It shoots 4K. It has 60 FPS slow motion at 1080p. It has a flippy screen. Many high-end cameras still don't have flippy screens. What? It's got touchscreen controls. You can control it remotely with your smartphone. It's compact, small, and great for run-and-gun filmmaking. Batteries last a long time. It has preamp audio input, absolutely professional grade. This camera came out in 2015, 5 years ago, but it's still so good. And I'm guessing it's gonna be relevant for another 5 years, and here's why. Most people watch YouTube on their phone, and most of them don't go over 1080p resolution. In terms of camera quality for online delivery, we've peaked. G7 is simply the cheapest pro camera that you can get right now. The G7 has a micro Four Thirds sensor, which is the same as I'm using on my camera. In fact, the G7 is really similar to my camera, the GH5, in many ways. Don't buy into the myth that a small sensor means bad camera. People frequently tell me that my videos look cinematic, and that shallow depth of field is just beautiful. Don't let other YouTubers sucker you into buying a full frame camera for $1,800. Bigger sensor simply means that your lenses will have to be bigger, so you end up with this giant beast. And a lens for a full frame camera can cost anywhere upwards of $2,000, $3,000. For the G7, you can get amazing shallow depth of field and cinematic footage with this lens right here. This lens is $150. The equivalent lens for a full-frame Canon camera is $2,000. It's compact and small. It's really fast at f1.7. So yes, the G7 at $500, which includes a lens like this, you can get really cinematic footage. In my opinion, the G7 has two downsides. It doesn't have in-body stabilization. So if you're going handheld, your footage might end up being a little shaky. But there are many ways to solve this. And most professional cinema gear doesn't have stabilization either way. The next downside is that it doesn't really have a color grading friendly picture profile. But like I've mentioned in a previous video on color grading, you don't really need that. Usually the natural picture profile looks just perfect. And the G7 delivers really beautiful skin tones. I promise you, with this camera, you're gonna look absolutely fabulous. The G7 is a fantastic YouTube camera, but it's also a great filmmaking camera for people starting out. You just can't beat the price, and this camera would be comfortable on a production set, which is actually the main reason I recommend it. If you're starting YouTube and you're learning about cameras and stuff, you might start branching out into making some skits or some filmmaking projects, music videos, so being able to play around and get comfortable with a proper filmmaking camera is a huge bonus. You could just film everything on a smartphone, and it's a great way to start, but the smartphones tend to do everything automatic, and you're not gonna necessarily learn the skills of operating a proper camera. And in the end, proper cameras will always have the ability to swap out lenses to give very distinct looks. So in my opinion, no matter how good smartphones become, they're never gonna really replace the professional film camera. Personally, I started out with this one. It's a Lumix camera exclusive to Japan, marketed as a 4K selfie cam for girls. But for me, this was perfect. It has very similar specs to the G7, and it's got that flippy screen, and I must have used this for over a year before I upgraded. Absolutely amazing. If your budget is a little higher, I can recommend the Lumix G9. It came out last year and cost about $1,000 for the body itself. The G9 is an overall improvement over the G7, and it uses the same lenses, so you still have access to these cheap micro Four Thirds lenses. Like this one, again, 150 bucks. Arguably the best feature of the G9 is the in-body stabilization, making the camera very stable. But the G9 is $1,000 without a lens. G7, you can get it for $500 with a lens. That's it for this video. I hope you learned something, or at least gotten some ideas of what to look for in a camera. I got all the links down below. If you like this video, please consider sharing it with a friend. I'm John Bear, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!